Hey everyone, I'm Chris,
And I'm Adam.
and welcome to the Gamers Hall. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about D20 rolls of 20 or 1. Always auto success, always auto fail. How do you guys play it? How do we see it? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's get into it. This is a conversation a whole lot of people have at every game table, and it's definitely something that you should lay out at the beginning of every campaign you're starting.
Yes, it's definitely something the DM needs to discuss with the players and see how you guys want to play it. Because I definitely could see the spectrum for both, but let's talk about rules as written to start off with.
Yep, let's get into that. That's very important first.
All right, so rules as written, the only thing that a 20 is a auto success on is attack rolls and death saving throws.
Right, and specifically the attack roll becomes a crit, and then also the death saving throw pops you up with 1 hit point. It's not necessarily that it's an auto success. It's that when this happens, it does that. It says it auto hits and then it also comes up with 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the 1's, the opposite of that is 1's. In combat, when you roll, it automatically misses. You do not hit, no matter if your plus to hit is a plus 30 and they have a 11. You auto miss somehow, some way.
Yeah, whether you lost your footing or, they just got lucky and dodged. However you want to describe it, you missed.
And then a death saving throw, when you roll a 1, specifically says you fail 2 death saving throws when you roll a 1.
Yes.
That is all that happens.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you got a plus 15. So as long as you roll a 2 or better, you're good. But if you roll that 1, that's an automatic 2 fails.
That's correct. Yeah. So those are the only places in the book that specifically talks about 1's or 20's when referring to die rolls. In the ability checks section and for saving throws, there's no mention of 1's and 20's. In the way they have panned this out, and this is coming from the D&D creators and such, is that DCs are really what decide how hard something should be, and your dice roll is just trying to meet that.
Yes.
So,
and the DM always determines what the difficulty is depending on the level of difficulty.
So with that being said, a 1 can succeed at a check.
Yes.
It's very possible for a 1 to succeed at a check, where if you are the rogue and you have spent all your time becoming amazing at acrobatics, done every feat you can add to it, you've pumped up your expertise into it, you've gained items that go into it, so you could do a backflip on ice in the middle of a snowstorm and hit that thing, standing still. You have a plus 20 on acrobatics. Even if the DM said, hey, your DC's 20 to hit this, you go, I don't care. I have a 20 and I can roll a 1. That's a 21. Success. Mechanically, that's how the game works.
Yeah, he technically doesn't even have to roll at that point.
Technically, he does not. The DM might say, you get a little slip, but you still make it. But we'll get into that later. The 20, on the other part of it, is, you're fighting a god, for instance, and you roll... the DC for their thing is like a charisma save of 22. And then you roll a 20.
Charisma is your dump stat, so you have a -1 in it. So even if you roll a 20, 19's the best you got.
Yep. You still fail. You'll never pass that save. Yeah. Even if you roll a 20, you'll never pass that save.
You don't have to roll it because you auto-fail.
Yeah.
Unless there are other factors giving you extra bonuses, then there's technically no need to roll that die because you auto-fail it because you can't achieve that number.
Yeah, and that is mechanically how the game is made. Okay, so there are many other instances and variations we can go through, but those are 2 definite examples of how these die rolls and mechanics work.
Yeah, that is the rules as written, how it's designed.
Yeah, and that's important. Okay, mechanically, that controls the power of the party. right?
Yes.
So if a player has no possibility of doing something, then maybe they'll think twice about actually going to do it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, if a player knows that they will be able to do that no matter what, they might take chances and do something more fun.
Yeah, but I mean, plus, like, yeah, like for instance, it could just also lead to a lot of things being, one, unrealistic, and just two, like, how did you even explain this? Which, and we'll get to that when we go into the next part.
Right. And then the last thing is DMs, you should set your DCs to the expectations of what you believe should happen, right? If you don't think something should happen and it's something that's not a set in stone DC, set it higher, right? So there's a little chance that you can make it. Still with a possibility. Or if you're like, well, this is easy, set it low. That way people can do things that should be easily and not worry about rolling a 1 and auto failing on something they have no business failing on. And then you happen to go, well, fudge that roll, it didn't happen. You just don't have to worry about that. The rules are already saying, no, that's a DC 8. You're good. You're not going to fail this check, or you shouldn't fail this check, barring something else mechanically happening, like extra minuses, disadvantage, advantage, other extenuating circumstances that you could add into the game.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, it should already be set into the DC pre the player rolling.
That's correct. All that should be done, so as soon as somebody says, hey, roll that check, no more addition afterwards. None of that. It should be pure and simple. The DC is blah. You need blah. Did you hit it or not? Yes? Cool. This is what happens? No? All right. This is what happens. Done.
Yeah.
No more adding afterwards. Just let it be.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they have those special roles like Favor of the Gods and other things that could afterwards add to the roll.
Yeah.
Those are the only things, but those are mechanics and abilities inside the game that allow such a thing to happen.
We've done some research on the internet, off the internet, talking to other people, and everyone plays it differently. I mean,
everybody does.
Some people, doesn't matter. You get a 20, it's an auto success. Some people, you get that 1, doesn't matter. It's an auto fail.
And some people don't even know these things. They just have played it so long in this particular way from so many editions that it is always played this way. It doesn't matter what the rules say. This is how it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that carry over from other editions that, I mean, even we've made mistakes on.
Countless times.
That we have to go back and double check the book. And
I am the worst about it. I have too much DnD knowledge stuck in my head from DMing for so long that I will mix and match these things, and especially on 1's and 20's. That somehow it always creeps in there from previous editions that it does this, and one week I'll do it this way, and the next week it'll switch back to what it's supposed to be on 5th edition, and then the next week it'll go back to being 2nd edition rules or something. There's a lot there.
Yeah, so on the internet, a lot of people, majority of people actually feel that 1's and 20's should be auto successes and auto fails. I can't remember who did it, but somebody did a poll, and I remember it was like 55 to 60% of people out there said that it should be auto success, auto fail, whereas there was 45 or 40% that were the opposite.
It was the dungeon coach?
Dungeon coach.
Yeah.
Yep. Shout out to you, man. Good job.
Well, so here's what happens with those being always auto on everything, right? One, you set the ceiling that there's a 5% chance that at any given time you can do anything, right? If I roll a 20, there's a 5% chance. That's chance right there that I get it, no matter what. It doesn't matter what it is, which is cool because you do something completely unexpected. Everybody's really happy that you do it. But there are some things in the game you're just not supposed to succeed at. Our perfect example is a king will never give up his country just because you rolled a 20 on diplomacy.
Yeah, that's...
I don't care how charismatic you are. That king that's his, and no amount of you talking to him one time is going to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine a bard walks into a room. I'd definitely be better at running this country than you. You definitely should turn your crown over to me. Oh, that's a 20 on my nat 20 on the persuasion. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So what? That's not going to happen, bro. Like,
I'll make you a
the
knight.
DC is 50. Congratulations. It's not happening.
It's not happening. You haven't proved anything. There's more to it. And then the other one is that you roll a 1. So that's an auto fail. Well, walking across a slick boardwalk in the middle of town would require a DC of 5. Not something hard. Most toddlers can do it just fine. They'll slip some, but most toddlers will do it. But are you telling me a very acrobatic rogue that has let's just say a thief, street thief, the ones that scale stories and climb across the thief subclass? You telling me that he's going to slip?
Parkour thief.
Yeah, you telling me he's going to just slip on regular water on a regular boardwalk? No. Even with a 1, no, because the DC is a 5. And that doesn't matter how he's done something worse than this repeatedly, he's trained.
Well, see, a lot of people on the internet have argued against that as, well, it's not necessarily saying that the person or the character failed. It's the way most people on the internet are describing it is that other circumstances has caused this person to fail. For instance, the rogue is picking a lock. Well, he rolled a 1 and his lockpick broke, or the lock, even if the lockpicks don't break, he accidentally did something and caused it to jam.
Okay, then why is my rebuttal to that is why is the DC set to a number that is very plausible for them to make, and then suddenly there's a chance for them to fail? Why hasn't the DC just been moved up to where it's harder to do it, saying, oh yeah, you didn't know this, but your lockpicks have rusted, so let's add to that DC. So you think your lockpicks are fine, you didn't check those, you just did as you normally do, and hey, popped it. These extenuating circumstances are supposed to be added before the roll, making sure that the player understands what they are capable of and not capable of. And sometimes the DM doesn't have to tell them that, but it does seem somewhat unfair to a player to be able to say, hey, at any given time, you're going to fail this thing that you tried really hard on to be good at.
Okay, but then let's switch this around to back to what you were talking about. Your hardcore parkour thief. Okay, the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
These people have been training 10, 15, 20 years doing this. They still fail. They still fall. They still lose their balance.
That's true. They do. But
so these same people, but there's a chance. I don't know what it is, but there's still a chance that sometimes they're not going to hit that backflip.
Well, here's a change in that. They are one on the highest level of play they possibly be for themselves, right? As athletes, this is for them. This is as far as you go, right? So let's just say, for sake of argument, the DC now is set higher. You're on a different stage. You are competing against higher level people that have also trained this much. Now you have to add in the stress factor of that. You have to add in that you've been training for this for months, years, especially in the Olympics up till that point, days before they go do their actual trial runs. They are training to that. So they could be exhausted. They could be tired because, 1, they haven't spent the time to do it. And then 3, on top of that, most of them are drinking and partying before they do this. So not only have they exhausted their mind, they've exhausted their body, and they've inebriated themselves or caused some...
I actually don't think any of them drink at the Olympics.
Some do.
Usually after.
But there's a lot of stories of partying that go on.
Partying, yes, but they usually try to stay very, sober.
It has happened before. It has definitely happened before, especially in many different countries. They've caught them doing stuff that they're not supposed to. But that's the point I'm making. These are the extenuating circumstances that would cause, let's just say, a track and field person to run the 500-meter relay and trip. They just crack under the pressure. You know, they have that step that this is now just so much harder for them because of the competition, the stress they put on themselves, and everything else. That would be where I would say the DC is, well, normally you could do this on any day in a regular field, but now, no, you're on a different level. This is harder. How are you going to beat them?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. At that point, it's you know, it's about technique. It's about form. You got thousands of people watching you, but that's also saying that that same person on any given Sunday, not at the Olympics, could never fail a backflip. Is always going to hit a backflip, no matter what, no matter where they are. They've trained for it their whole lives. Whereas I could definitely see being like, okay, yeah, there's extenuating circumstances. You didn't see that small spot of oil, so when you went to do that backflip, you slipped, you fell.
But that's not a 1 number. That is a DC. You added oil to it. Oil adds to the DC.
Yeah,
but not to the 1, because the number you are rolling is saying you do that. It is coming from you. Any extenuating circumstances add to the DC. You as a player, as a character, that number is saying what you are capable of and adding your skill checks to it, not what is happening around you. Other things affect your DC, can give you advantage or disadvantage, but they don't affect what your player character is capable of doing.
Yeah, well, the argument for that is just that, for instance, saying that you didn't see that spot of oil, that's the DM just throwing something in there to explain how this one auto-failed. It wasn't there before, but because they want to play 1's auto-fail, then, okay, bam, you rolled that 1, here's the auto-fail, well, explain to me how my character doesn't make this backflip. Yeah. Explain to me how these lock picks didn't happen, and so the DM has to finagle some stuff in there.
So what you're saying is rolling these critical failures on 1s or critical misses are actually adding to the burden of the DM, because now the DM has to come up why this 1 magically makes that superstar athlete not hit that backflip, or that 20 somehow hit something it shouldn't. You know, like how did you bend an arrow around this complete metal wall and hit somebody on the other side because you got a 20. Just because you got a 20, the AC is like a 26. You couldn't see the person, and somehow you saw a hair, one hair, like, oh, that's enough, and you catch them with an arrow. That is adding, I believe, is adding more burden to the DM to allow the players to have fun, which is fine. If you want these crazy instances of success and failure to happen, I mean, we've done it before. It adds some
great storytelling.
Some great storytelling, and if you're the DM that is on their stuff to be able to knock that out and be able to explain that, that's fantastic. Good on you.
I mean, I could definitely see newer DMs having a problem with that. It's like, well, explain to me how this fails. I don't know, man. It just didn't work. I don't know how locks and lock picking. I don't know that. I'm just
I don't know how the Mystic Arcanum I'm supposed to explain to you. I don't understand the weaving of how a beholder poops. I don't get it. Why am I supposed to explain this to you?
Yeah,
it just doesn't. Which adds to another layer of difficulty for the DM, right? I mean, now the DM has to not only explain how this happened, but they have to have a knowledge of something that they probably wouldn't have a knowledge before they decided, oh yeah, you walk across this boardwalk. Roll a die.
Yeah.
And then explain how all these people can't make it across.
It's like, yeah, sorry, the part of the boardwalk you walked across actually had a very thin layer of diamond, and now that there's water on it, your person magically slipped, and it also had a splash of oil that was 3 inches away from it. Congratulations, you fell on your butt.
Or even worse, like, oh, there was a pixie there that you didn't see, and the pixie decided to play a trick on you. And then, where's a pixie? Well, hold on. We're in the middle of town. Why is there a pixie here? And then now you've started something totally different. Because I have seen where successes and failures, 1's and 20's, lead to characters doing things they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
And in any given circumstance, and they've rolled a 20, and they're like, I hit it. You're like, as a DM, you go, that's good for you, but this still doesn't mean you're going to get it. I got it again. Like, okay.
Yeah, which, I mean, it could also lead to, like kind of upsetting and unrealistic expectations or moments in the game where it's like, all right, man, you got the barbarian who's got, a 16 or 18 strength, and the DC's 25 to bend the bars so that you guys can break free from the sail. But he rolled a 12, and it doesn't put him at 25. But yet the wizard comes up, rolls that nat 20. Got it, guys.
I've seen that before. I've seen the door that can't be kicked down by a barbarian be kicked down by the wizard with an 8 strength.
Yeah.
Legit, I got this. And he does it, and he rolls a 20, and the DM goes, you got it. And you go, what?
When in actuality, like, you can kick that door all day long. Sorry, 8 strength wizard, you're not kicking it down.
Never going to happen. You'll break your foot before that ever happens. Yeah. But it's funny. That's hilarious.
It is hysterical.
It was the funniest moment I've ever seen. It happened to my character. I was a half-orc samurai that liked to kick in doors. And legitimately, my wizard friend decided to kick in the door when I failed 3 times in a row. Because I rolled a 1 and like a 4 and a 5. And I still didn't get the door down. And the wizard comes in, well, I got it, as a joke, and hits a 20. And the DM at the time said, okay, you get it. Door kicks open. I'm like, well, I loosened the jar for you, right? Or something. You have to explain why that happened. But at the same time, no, that's not
right.
That's not going to be what happens. But those are kind of
that story right there leads to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
How many chances do you give the players to attempt a skill challenge before, or could you just say, you know what? You guys, you're going to be here for a while. There's nobody here. You can just add a nat 20 to all of your skill challenges because you guys are going to be sitting here going, I try to kick the door in. I try to kick the door in. I try to kick the door in. Eventually, I'm going to roll a 20.
So that is mechanically that was in previous editions. I'll take 20. I've got all the time in the world. I'll take 20 on this roll, and you just tell me how long it took.
Right.
DN wise, I think there's a 3rd edition rule. You can take a 10 or you can take a 20. A 10 says at any average time I'm going to get this. So, and then a 20 is like, I'm going to spend as much time as it takes to perfectly get this. And if I can't do it with a 20, then I just can't do it. Like, that was the purpose of those rules. Which is, they're not in 5th edition, right?
No, it's not in 5th edition at all. I think when I run my games, if somebody fails something, then that's their roll for the next hour.
Yeah, and I've done is like, well, you failed it. Then no matter how hard you try, I'll just say, well, for the next 7 minutes, you realize you're never going to do it. Like, that's it. You're going to have to come back the next day with a different plan if you want to do it. Because I'm a little bit more strict on that. Like, you make that roll, that's it. Either somebody else comes up and gives me a reason why they watched you for this long do it and you couldn't do it, or that's it. You guys have to figure out another way, because that's the scale here. What does a skill check equate to in time, right? Yeah. What is one skill check?
But, I also see the bad side of how I did it, where it was like, this is what you rolled, that's where it is for the next hour. Mm-hmm. But, in movies, you see people, like, trying to break their bonds, and it's like, it's not working, and it's like, dude, like, give me 1 more minute, or, 20 more seconds, like, hold them off, like, I'm going to get this. And then, eventually the person breaks it, or whatever.
I think those are...
The thief, opens the lock, and they get past the door.
I think that's important for storytelling, to have these... things that they could pass or fail without worrying about 1's or 20's, because
there's a consequence. There's something is happening that is causing this. Whereas, you're just in a room. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, like you need to escape the room that's filling with water. Well, the thief he's ready. He's set up, and then he realizes he has this lock that's really hard to get out of. Well, you got a minute. Figure out how you're going to make sure this happens in 1 minute. You get one die roll to figure out, because you're going to fiddle with it that whole minute. One die roll is going to say that. Or do you give them multiple die rolls? Or is there something else? It's very important to show what the consequences may be for this.
Yeah.
And as a DM, it's really crappy when you set up a trap for somebody and then they just kind of get out of it by pure unadulterated luck. And you're like, well, that was my story point. You're supposed to get captured. Yeah. You've just screwed up my whole next 2 hours of this campaign by your one ability to get out.
Yeah, but I mean, also imagine, like, you want the rogue sitting there picking the lock while everybody else is having to figure something else out or handle whatever situation you dealt with them. But how crappy is it when all 5 players go up, ... Oh, the priest rolled a nat 20 on lockpicking. He opened it. It's like, no, he's got a.
He doesn't even know how locks work.
It's a 21. It still doesn't meet the DC.
Yeah, all he said is bless me and stuck his finger in the hole, and all of a sudden it pops open.
Yeah, still a very funny moment storytelling wise.
Awesome, yeah, like that would be great. The priest of death that says not today, death, and hits the lock, and they get out. That is great. There's good and bad to both things. There's pluses and minuses to successes and failures. Just remember, whichever way you choose, the story is going to reflect the 1's and 20's you rolled. What the outcomes will be, what the possible chances and different things that can happen by just the fact of saying, well, yeah, this guy, doesn't matter if he rolls 1, he'll never fail. Okay, what choices will that person make now that they know they're not going to fail this? Will they take more chances, or will they always be safe? Now he says, okay, yeah, that acrobatic thief rogue says, I can break in that place, no problem. All I have to do is climb across these buildings, get in here, take that, do this, pop these. Yeah, I'm set up for that. Let's do that. That means he's going to take the time to search for the way that he will always succeed. He will role play that out to find that information, I would hope, and not be given to him. Because that's the way he knows he's going to succeed. Versus, at any given time, he's like, well, I can roll a 1. I can roll a 1, which would be funny. The guards, he rolls a 1, falls off his tightrope, and then the guards catch him. And then now you have to save the rogue that should have made it. Now you have a whole different story to go with.
Yeah.
That can be fun to play too. But at the same time, these 20's and 1's reflect, or automatic 20's, automatic hits and successes with 20's, and automatic failures with 1's, reflect what a player will make in choices that they do.
Yeah, because determine on whether when the DM asks them to roll a die, that's when it's like, oh, so something good or bad could happen. I hope I don't roll a 1.
And we've talked a lot about the result from the players, but what about the DMs? How many times have you rolled a 20 on the die and said, I don't need that to happen, and you fudge it? Because you know that you've all agreed upon a 20 is an auto success. You get a 20, and then you have to go, I got you. And the player's like, what? And you go, all right, well, let me show you. Pull up your board and show them, look, there's the die. I rolled a 20, and they're like, oh, God. Okay, what do we do now?
Yeah, but I mean, that's also kind of a whole different thing where, you have DMs that roll behind the screen because, I mean, everybody's trying to have fun. You don't want to TPK the party, or you don't want a situation where a die literally brought the campaign to a halt because nobody knows what to do anymore because they all rolled poorly.
Right. Well, I changed the way I DM. I used to like using DM screen, but on our campaigns, I started removing the DM screen and rolled in front of everybody so they would always see what die I rolled.
Oh, rolling in front of people it definitely changes a lot of things when they know 100% you are not fudging rolls.
Yeah.
Which I understand why DMs would fudge certain rolls because you
totally agree with it. You should.
You don't want the story to come to a halt and have to make up some elaborate scheme or elaborate thing to get the story rolling back the way you needed it to. But I've heard counter arguments, which is, well, then you shouldn't have asked the players to roll dice.
Yeah.
If that was the case, you should have
given them a chance.
You should have just given it to them.
Yeah, given it or not allow them to do it. There's arguments on both sides, but these 1's and 20's will affect the entire game. Right?
I think for me, in combat, I typically like to roll in front of the players, but out of combat, I like to roll behind the screen because I don't want the players, one, to know the bonuses of the NPCs or things that are happening, and I don't want I don't want them to know that the person they tried to deceive rolled a high number against their deception or against their persuasion.
Yeah, and if that way it gives you a way to play it off and then do that. See, in that scale, I actually didn't do a lot of opposing. For out of combat, I would just set a DC and then let them roll. I wouldn't roll opposingly unless it's one of those like they chose, like I want to have an opposed roll with you, like in arm wrestling or something like a battle of wits. You'll actually do opposed rolls, but otherwise, I always just set the DC, and then I would not roll to oppose them at all. I would just say, yeah, this investigator, his insight is going to be a DC 18. If you beat his 18, you trick him. You deceive him. And then that way you don't have to worry about, am I going to roll good? Is this investigator for whatever reason not going to pick up on these obvious clues from this guy that doesn't know how to lie? Or even in the worst case scenario, what if you both roll a 20 and you have auto passes?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
or you both roll 1s and you have auto failures. Hilarity ensues. But what kind of problem do you have now that with opposed rolls you both roll a 20?
Yeah, the barbarian and the wizard are arm wrestling and they're both at a stalemate, no magic included.
Yeah, and you just go, what? But we agreed that this succeeds, right?
Yeah, and they got about higher number. They succeed.
They succeed. Period. Now, granted, this is not going to happen very often, but what if it happens at a very, very critical moment in the campaign?
Yeah.
I mean, that deception versus insight check, that's a critical moment. When you're lying to, let's just say, the captain of the guard, and you're trying to make sure that he doesn't know that your ally is sneaking in the back to assassinate the prince, right? You have to hold him here, and you roll a 20, but that captain of the guard rolls a 20 as well and senses something's up. Well, how do you play that off? How does he know that you aren't lying to him, but you rolled a 20, which means you should be lying to him, he shouldn't get it. But he does, but he doesn't, but he does, but he doesn't, right?
Right.
What happens then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if he does know you're lying,
object just met an unstoppable force.
See, here's one of the things I believe. This is why 1's and 20's were in not put in the core mechanics as something that is supposed to happen.
Right.
It is a house rule that you can do.
It is definitely a house rule. The 40% out there that were opposed to it, a lot of their reasons were that if you make it to where ability checks are auto fails and auto successes on 20s and 1s, that certain classes like the rogues, the barbarians, the fighters, the paladins, they lose a lot of their weight as a class because, well, now there's just a chance that they can, they should be good at a lot of these skill challenges, and there's that chance that they're going to auto-fail when they should be not having to roll on some of them at all.
And remember, advantage and disadvantage is a major mechanic in 5th edition. So that doubles the chances for you to ever roll a 20 or a 1. So no longer is it a 5% chance, it's now a 10% chance that you'll hit a 20 on your die, or a 1 on one of your die.
Yeah.
And God forbid you have another thing that can allow you to reroll, like the Halfling's Luck. So...
Lucky feet.
Halfling's amazing with the ability to say, I didn't roll that 1. I'm going to roll something different. So good. And I mean, just that's an important point to this is like...
Actually, in Critical Role, Sam Riegel, he was playing a halfling, and I want to say like 95% of the times that he rolled a 1, he refused to re-roll them. And the party was like, re-roll it. It's your racial ability. Re-roll it. He was like, no. He's like, I want to see where this goes. Like, he doesn't like that there's that chance that he could, or just a random chance that he can re-roll something and just get it. He's like, no, I want to see where the story plays out. Like, I rolled this, I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, and then that's a very interesting role play aspect to it is, what do you do? How do you role play that 1s or failures? And who is the burden on for that role play? Is it the DM or is it the player to explain why you did so bad? Because the player might have an entirely different view and go, well, I rolled this critical failure and I'm supposed to be awesome at it. Well, I'm going to explain to you how I failed. What happened internally? What went on that made me fail this? Did I see a red balloon that's not supposed to be there? Yeah.
I went to, as I was going to do the backflip, I sneezed and just face planted.
Yeah. So these 1s and 20s could, be fun where I say this might be the really good reason to add 1s and 20s as auto crits, auto fails is whenever it happens, the player has to explain exactly how it happened. Because now the burden's not necessarily on the person that's having to do. The DM who has to do all the thinking.
Initial storyteller.
Yeah, the initial storyteller. Now, that bit of play is on the player. Like, okay, we're playing this way. You explain how you got that 1 or 20. You explain what happened in this situation. And then now the DM gets to play reactionary off of it. Barring don't go crazy with it. Keep it a little. Keep within.
Matt Mercer basically did that when his players would kill someone important, how do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you want to describe how you killed this person?
Yeah.
How do you want to just describe how you did this major event? Mm-hmm. And, it's, listening to the players describe how they did stuff is exciting.
And I've done it as well. Like, I believe I talked about this one before when, one of my campaigns, a cleric caught the goblin from going into this whirling death machine. But he's being sucked in, and he had to hit a 20 in order to save his friend, and then he had to make his roll after that to make sure that he doesn't get sucked in with him, and caught him. And then I made him explain, how he kind of does it, and it's a memorable moment I always keep because it's one of those moments when that 20 actually mattered. Like, really mattered where I said, the only way you get this is with a 20. And it wasn't that I was set a DC on that. I was just setting, no, this is the only expectation I have for you. You guys are screwed. You can let your friend go into this and mincemeat totally dead, right? He's gone. Or you can take the chance, just one chance, to roll a 20, save him and save yourself at the same time. He said, I got to do it. And that was a big story moment where, the only chance you have for success in a chance that there shouldn't even be a chance for you to succeed is this 120. And it's fun. It was great.
Yeah.
Creates a great story moment. Shouldn't have been feasible, but they asked and they explained. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You as the DM allowed it.
Exactly. Which, that's another example of, in play, you can fudge the way your expectations and your rules a little bit to allow a story moment to shine. Just let something happen that normally shouldn't happen if you give the players a chance to make it happen.
Yeah.
Or fail. The chance to totally fail.
I almost think what it comes down to is how detrimental is it to the story that is progressing forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Will this cause this to halt because I allowed this?
Yeah. Is this something that is going to make them have to go a different route? Is this something that's going to halt the campaign and the player's going to have to figure something out? Or is this something like literally this, you're a level 12 rogue, like, do I really make him try and pick the lock? Or you've got the monk who is just crazy agile, has a plus 15 to acrobatics. Like, do you even really make him roll the test to see if he can jump over a box and drop kick an orc?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, do you? Because, in that instance, you can just stop worrying about that burden and just say, yeah, all these things you just do automatically. I'm never going to ask you. You just explain when you're doing it. If you feel like front flipping your way all the way across this, go for it. That's fine. I might make you exhausted later, but, go for it. It's fine. You can do that. Your player has invested magical ability, invested feats, invested time, money, and, blood, sweat, and tears to become this freaking awesome at that thing. Come on, let them have it.
And just to always give them that 5% chance that something bad could happen. But I see that point where it's just good. It just could be good story.
So okay, let's break it down to the end. I'll go ahead and my opinion on this. And this is, we try not to give our opinions, but this is my opinion on this particular topic. I don't think there should ever be automatic 20s and 1's. For most of the reasons I've laid out. Automatic fails and 1's. I don't think so, because...
Except for in combat and death saving throws.
Where the game mechanically tells me to put it. I believe that they promote expectations of things that shouldn't happen. Not that they're bad. Not that I wouldn't fudge something sometimes to allow crazy stuff like to happen, but personally, as a DM, I don't think they should be in the game. And as a player, I actually don't like it either. Because player expectation, DMs are slightly different. But as a player and a DM, I don't like them in either things. Because I'm kind of like Sam Riegel. If I roll a 1 and have a chance to pan out, even though I'm really... Well, I kind of want to see where it goes. I don't want to die me getting really lucky saying that pass or fail. I want to set up my own expectations, and then if I fail it because of what I've set up, not from my bad luck, because we already know my die rolls are garbage. I am not lucky. I'm not a lucky person.
Unless you're the DM.
Even DM, I roll bad. But
as
sometimes,
a player, you roll horrible. As a DM, you roll pretty amazing.
But I want to 1's and 20's, automatic passes and automatic fails create a time when I can't plan out what I would do. Since there's always a time that, and I'm a very thoughtful person. I don't like to be chaotic in games. I like to plan where I'm going, know what I'm going to do, set my odds, pick up things that will create a balanced character, and always saying, well, I'm going to fail. I can fail on a 1 any time gives me like, I don't know. Just set my DC high and then make it where I can't pass that. That's fine.
See, I kind of like the chaoticness of it, or that, something could be an auto pass or an auto fail because of just the story element that comes from it. How are the players going to describe it? How's the DM going to describe it? Mm-hmm. Like, what happened to cause this? How is it going to be explained? Or, like, for instance, the wizard bends those bars, but you make somebody else roll an insight check, and it's like, oh, the barbarian really did weaken him up. He just kind of just let out right before it happened, and the wizard came and Jackie Chan'd it up.
Yeah.
Or, hey, is that how the wizard did it? The barbarian couldn't do it, and the wizard's like, I got this using my brain. Pees on the on the shirts, puts it in, and starts twisting the bars together.
That's that's an entirely different thing other than rolling 1's and 20's. That's a whole other check.
But that's the way you could describe it.
You could.
Is, okay, the wizard rolled this 20. Technically, I made him roll a strength check, but I'm going to just re-describe it as he used his intellect with using his strength, but in a way that made it successful.
So why don't you just say athletics intelligence check? You add your athletics proficiency to your intelligence. And instead of doing strength, you use...
Because you weren't even thinking about it at the time, and you didn't think about it until that 20 rolled up.
Yeah. I can see that. And so you can definitely tell he and I have different viewpoints on this. We're towards the middle of this, where we'll both fudge either way. But really, it's up to you guys, right? So you need to figure out session 0 whether this is something for you or not.
Talk to your players, see what you guys want to do, and see how you want to play it out, and just make sure it's something that everyone knows before you start playing.
Yeah, because on both sides there will be instances of fun. There are both ways to make this work, and both ways are going to be people with their feelings hurt because it didn't go the way they wanted.
Yeah,
but it's for fun. Just as long as everybody knows at the very beginning how this is going to play out, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
And like always, I mean, it's all about the fun. Just have fun with your players, have fun doing it, and that's...
And hopefully this discussion has helped you guys understand this topic a little bit more,
and the viewpoints from both sides,
right? So you can make an informed decision and just enjoy your campaign and the story that it creates and the fun time you're going to have with your friends. And if you like this one, hopefully you'll like our other videos, so take a look at them. And if you really like what we're doing, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and comment.
And leave some comments.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and maybe you might have some other viewpoints or other things that we didn't talk about that might flip me to Chris's side, or vice versa. Might flip Chris over going, no, that's a really good point. That's really hard to argue. Put it down there in the comments and let us know.
All right. Otherwise, have fun, guys, and keep rolling them nat 3s.
Not going to go with the 1's or 20's when we just literally the whole episode, whole show talked about 1's or 20's.
I didn't want there to be any auto success or fail rate.
You got me.